What does living your life feel like? Like there's a difference between living and existing. So let's talk about, Barb, what living our life really feels like. So I'm Andrea Gullick.
And I'm Barb Gibson. I love this topic, Andrea. I love it.
You didn't say, and we're here to let her be.
I know, because we're not really here today, right? This is a
This is
recording.
true. This is a recording. So
Correct.
let's just get that out there. But tell me why you love this topic.
Because, for one thing, that is why it's a recording, because we're out living our lives today and the feeling of that. And um, as you mentioned in the beginning, life wasn't always like that for me. Life didn't always just go and enjoy life. And, we often talk about, we come back to our husband's passing, and that's not our story as much as what's happened since then. And what happened since then for me is to realize, live in the moment and take advantage of every opportunity to say yes to more things than less things, and just I've become very adventurous. And that's not like crazy out of control adventure, but stepping out of my comfort. Some people think it is. That's why I was having to kind of clarify that. My kids sometimes are like, "You're gonna do what, Mom?" like like driving a taxi. Like, my family wasn't real excited about driving a taxi, and I'm like, what can happen, So
Nothing can
just
go wrong.
nothing can go wrong. And I shouldn't say nothing went wrong, but it's all worked for my good. So, yeah, just that, almost like coming alive and being in the moment instead of thinking about the future. We've talked about this on other shows, Andrea, where we're like the stages of life that have kind of been set up for us. You're supposed to do this and this and this, and I'm to the age where there's retirement. And
So are you meant to be playing like lawn bowls or croquet or cups of tea with your, isn't that what you're meant to do when you're retired? Like just go, I'm kidding. Clearly I'm kidding. But
yeah, but you know
almost
what?
like this expectation of this is what the stages of life look like.
Right.
And it's like it's like you're confined to this, like in these little cages. I talk about the cages all the time. When you were saying, like, we do come back to the defining moment in our life. And I think that lots of people have a defining moment. Lots of people that kind of want more, go deeper, look for that adventure, is because for one reason or another, we've kind of learnt that life is short and life is here to be experienced. And I have these little quote things that pop in sometimes, and it might sound a little morbid or whatever, but this is the truth of how I see it. And I'm more afraid of not living while I'm alive than actually dying. Like, to me, like, that is because that's my thing. I think that there are a lot of people, and sometimes we can maybe even find ourselves sort of stuck in that of not really living. Like, we're alive. That's one thing. Yes, we have a beating heart and our lungs that breathe air, but that's not living as I see it.
Yeah.
Living's like chucking your kids in a caravan and living out of that thing for 8 months. Going, what am I doing?
What's that song? Is it Tim McGraw? I don't know. Live like you're dying. Like if you knew tomorrow was your last day.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not doing the song much justice here, but
try singing it. Could you just sing it?
No, I'm not singing it. No singing.
Live, Barbara, live. Come on, sing for us.
There's things you do in private that you just really
there's some living that we do behind closed doors, right?
Yeah, we can tell you about it, but you might not get to experience it with us, right?
That's it, yeah. So can I ask, Barb, what's some of the like the heart expanding moments that you've had by choosing to really live your life?
Yeah. You know, for me, Andrea, one of the big ones is traveling.
Mm.
And what do I like about traveling? For one thing, I've made friends around the world, just like in this group here. You know, we have friends on both sides of the globe, you know? And I was in a group that was people from around the world. And I made friends in that group. And then I have the opportunity to travel very easily. And so I started traveling and seeing them. And so not just connecting with people was beautiful. The scenery is beautiful, but the soul thing that we talk about all the time, connecting with my soul, and I call the voice of love. And wherever I go, the voice of love speaks to me, and it's like we're on an adventure. And it is the coolest thing. I love getting up in an airplane above the clouds.
I know. I used to be afraid of flying because I just automatically thought that it was going to drop out of the sky. I get in a car every day, but planes are far more dangerous. But what is that, Barb? Like that when you like lift up above and it's just that white, beautiful stretch and expanse of,
Yeah.
oh, it's like this is where we lose the words. You lose the words for the feeling of being alive in that moment.
Yeah. Driving to the airport, that I just get in this different realm. It's so cool. And then wherever I go, it's that being with myself
Mm.
and experiencing it to the fullest, whatever it is. And Andrea, I've gone places that all I know is the first night where I'm going to stay. And then I'm gone for 2 or 3 weeks. And where does that land? You know, I don't always have plans. I'm just like, it'll all work out. The last trip I came home from, I couldn't get a ride home from the airport. The airport's a little way, quite a ways away from me, as a matter of fact. And I'm like, I don't know, but it'll work out. And sure enough, I heard a flight attendant talking to a pilot, and she was going my way. And I just waited for her to come off the ramp. And I'm like, hey, and introduced myself, and I got a ride home. And so those are the kinds of things that like just flow, trusting everything is working for me. And what is the next adventure? And I've been able to travel the world like that. And that has been super cool. Some of it, sometimes I'm like, oh my gracious, what have I gotten myself into here? But when I just.
And isn't that, like, to me, isn't that a part of living? Like,
Yeah,
we can
absolutely.
sometimes think that, oh, living, like really living and not existing means that we're only attracting in all of these feel-good moments and all of this bliss and all of this amazingness. But isn't living actually finding yourself in situations where you go, what now? Like, it's the first time I've wanted to say that, but I just aired it. But that real like, oh, not feeling that comfortable right now. But
Yeah.
anyway, we'll just go with it. I mean, that is a part of the living, is like that polarity of that's where we, I don't know, that's where we grow,
Oh,
isn't it?
that's adventure to me. I love it. And I want to ask you some questions pretty soon, but one more thing for me is just that observing life from a different view. You know, I have these little grandkids right now, and when this airs, last Sunday was Mother's Day, and so before I left, I went to breakfast and then went to the park with my daughter and my mom and her two little ones, my daughter's two little ones, and just observing the generations and how life goes. And, we were playing on the slide and the swings and all that stuff. I'm playing with the little ones. And yet there was so much more going on inside me about the moment of the journey of life and the beauty in it. And,
Can I press pause on that? Is that
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
Because that's what was coming through before when you were sharing about your adventures and all the things that you've done. And we can do amazing things and have amazing adventures. And yet the truth of the living is whether we allow ourselves to be in each of those moments. That's what the truth of living is to not fast forward into the next bit, like and not want like
I
allow yourself
savor.
to think in it, yeah, and
It's,
be a part of it, not apart from it.
mm-hmm.
And that's the difference of focusing on what we do, like what's the adventures, like living life is about what we're doing, opposed to actually what about how we're being in those moments. Because
That's
go.
so true, because I can say I've traveled the world, and yet sitting in my house and just being with myself and enjoying the comfort of going into my bedroom and snuggling in my bed. And Andrea, I am very intentional about everything in my house, the atmosphere I create for myself, the foods I like to eat and enjoy, the watching. I live in the woods and watching out and watching the squirrels. And so it's not where I am, it's how I take in each moment and savor it. And how does that feel? That feels so peaceful. It feels like I think I'm so rich. I'm so rich. And I'm not talking about finances.
Yeah.
I'm talking about within me the peace, the gratitude, the eyes that I see life with, the
That's an
calm.
adventure of its own, right?
Oh, yeah, it is.
Because that was the thing. Like, I mean, and anyone that's listened knows that, I mean, I can walk 3 blocks to one of the most magnificent beaches ever. Like, my life it's a dream life for me. It's something I never anticipated I would ever experience. And yet here I am. But there's been moments where, just in terms of this adventure of life, has been a little unnerving. It's like, oh, what happens? Like, we're renting. What happens if if our tenancy is up and there's no vacancies here where we are? So there's this tentativeness of, and yet I have spent the last few mornings intentionally just giving myself 10 minutes with beautiful, like, music, like mantra music that makes me feel really lovely. And I just journal. Like, that is such an adventure for me. I come out of that feeling like I am so full, Barb, like just so full of energy and excitement and contentment and everything.
Yeah.
And that intentional practice, it fills me more on some days than going and sitting at the beach. And like, we don't need that. We can just have this adventure in our own little space of being. And I love that word, intentional. And if anyone's watched last week and now watching this is the word I was looking for.
I got it.
Intentional. But that's the whole thing. Like, that really is what part of this living life is how intentional we are with everything, how we feel, what we do, what we focus on. How intentional are we being?
Yeah, and I love the fact that if it doesn't feel like you want it to feel, be intentional about changing that. What can I do to make it feel like I want it to feel?
Yeah. Or can I be intentional? Because I always come back to this. Can I be intentionally accepting that this doesn't feel how I want it to feel? Like,
that's a good
choose it
point
or
too.
change it. Like, choose it or change it.
Oh, I like that. Choose it or change it. Yeah.
Choose it or change it. And it's okay to choose it. It's okay to say, oh, I'm feeling funky today. And I don't know if I don't know if I don't know how to change it. I don't know if I've got the energy. So I choose it, but be intentional, being conscious. Don't allow it to be on this, I have no control.
Right.
Because,
Own it.
because yeah. And you know, that's okay. Sometimes that can be challenging in itself, and that's okay too.
Absolutely.
But, you know, like just recognize what part we play in living our life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So where's the most exciting? I know it's about how you be. Like I understand that. I totally understand that. But I want to go on a journey with you because I know you've traveled the world and especially right now with travel being kind of a restricted process for the world, for most of the world. Tell me a place that, and tell me why. Where would you absolutely 110% go back to without even a second thought?
Well, oh
Don't
gosh.
tell me your bedroom, okay?
Yeah,
Because we can't all come
I
to the
do like
bedroom.
my bedroom. I do like that. I'll tell you something I experienced
Yes.
that I think everyone should experience. I was in Iceland.
Are you going to
And
talk about the Northern Lights?
the Northern Lights. And what you just did is what happened there. So when you're in Iceland, they usually they'll take you out in buses because they know where to go, where you get away from any lights. And not that Iceland's highly populated, because we did go out another night in a car.
There's no New York there.
No, Reykjavik. Yeah, but a lot of tour buses will take you out at night, and so we went on a tour bus and we were out there, and I'll bet there was 15 buses, big buses, and the Northern Lights usually show up like in the middle of the night or so, and it was so cold. It was so cold. We'd been out there and we'd stopped to a couple places and you saw some lights and it was pretty good. A lot of us were very impressed, but we were on the bus and they were just about to leave, and your tickets are good for 2 years. If you don't see the Northern Lights, you can come back and ride the bus again. It's really interesting. And they were like, they're good for this long because you didn't really get to see the show. And all of a sudden, over the microphone, she says, "It's happening. It's happening. Everyone get off the bus quickly." And so, Andrea, there's like 15 buses and all these people are getting off it. And the gasp and people crying. I started crying. It's like something that is just so phenomenal. It's so pure. It's like, I believe that stuff connects with our soul. Our soul we're created from that same thing that's bigger than us. We talk about it all the time. And I believe that energy is so pure that it connects to our soul purely. And tears, and you try to take a picture to begin with, but it's so big that you just can't capture it. And they just danced across the sky. And it was just something to really, really experience. So that was pretty cool.
So
and then they have the Blue Lagoon there too. And it's a hot spring. And it's a big hot spring. And you go in it underneath the stars. And there was a snowstorm happening. And so it's snowing and you're in this lagoon and you can swim up and get a drink and you swim up and get a facial. So you're swimming around with this facial all over you and it like freezes because it's so cold. And you're trying to drink your drink. And
you're saying it's so cold and you have like 6 inches of snow on your back porch. So imagine what it's going to be like for some Aussie who has like 3 days of winter.
Yeah.
That's so interesting because I love synchronicities, because Andrew and I were just talking about the Northern Lights, and on our bucket list that is absolutely something that we hope travel opens up again someday, because And he was actually talking about how from Australia Qantas have flights to the South Pole, and there's some sort of beautiful thing that happens there. So anyway, but yeah, and just the thought of it, like I can't imagine what it must be like to actually experience it, because like that whole gasp and my heart, like as you're talking about it and what it would feel like you can literally feel the sensation in your, or I can, of that, of your heart, and what it feels like to be in something as magnificent, like an experience like that is.
And you talk about it with the ocean, like Andrea. I mean, even though you get to go to the ocean all the time, to feel that is like, I know that you gasp at it.
Yeah. And it's interesting because I was thinking, like, as you're sharing, I was like, oh, what's my moment? And I don't want to say that this sounds corny, because this is my truth, but any moment that I have beside my husband, it doesn't matter where we are, like that's my moment, is that, it doesn't have to be adventures with places, or it is what we were talking about before, isn't it? Is that how do we feel in that moment is kind of the adventure. It is kind of that living of life. And we've done some pretty cool stuff in terms of going around Australia and living in a caravan, and I've seen bits and pieces, taken some trips and stuff like that. But I think when whatever moment that you're in joy and peace and happiness and contentment, that's an adventure all of its own, is it not?
Yeah. And I love that you bring that up, because that's really, again, that soul connection.
Yeah.
And you're safe. And it's just really, I was going to say it's really cool to connect with nature because it's so pure and safe like that. Most people can probably say that when you connect to nature, somehow you feel that, what does it feel like to be happy, to be joyous? And when you're with your husband, you've talked about your husband before with me, and how amazing the love is between you and the safety that's created there. And that's your soul again. And, aligning, someone who's aligned with you like that. And, that can be in your children's eyes.
Yes, exactly. Like, and, I think I've mentioned before, I've never been an animal person, but we got this puppy about 8 months ago, and he's gone and weaseled his way into my heart and soul, the little bugger. But like, even just watching him, like when we take him to the beach and watching him, he's a maniac. He is loving it. And there's just this, it's like this inhale, exhale thing that just is a little deeper. You sink into it that little bit more, and it brings so much happiness. And it is that connection, isn't it? And, I think I've mentioned it on another call, I can't remember, but I did do this little short program last year, and it was about this. Like, it was talking about how we think we're addicted to the feel-good hormones, but we're actually addicted to the hormones and chemical releases of feeling like crap, like the adrenaline and what happens when we worry and when we, gossip and all those sort of negative things. They actually have a chemical release of their own. And that's that's what our brain craves. And so, her kind of learning path for us around that was that the best way to actually overcome that, so that we don't have a social media addiction or we don't overeat and all of that, is oxytocin. And oxytocin is the love drug, and it's released through connection. And the 4 connections, this was her thing, the 4 connections. So connection to self, which we talk about all the time, Barb. Connecting to ourself, listening to the voice of love, knowing what our soul is whispering to us, following that. Then we have connection to others, and how important that is for the release of oxytocin and what we get, because we love connection. We love being with people that make us feel safe, and we get to be who we are. Nature. Right. So like you said about nature.
Wow.
And then spirit, which is really in terms of incorporated in our in us, like what we talk about, that connection to our soul. That's spirit. I call it universe. But all of those ways, that higher source of who we are, that's spirit. And when you sit with that and think about the topic that we're talking about right now, what's the difference between living and existing? And what does living feel like? Like, to me, it's that. How are we connecting on each of those levels? Because that creates these wild adventures of living.
Yeah, it does. And it doesn't need to be faraway places or anything like what you said. And it can be. There's that both and again.
Yeah.
Everything's both and. So, yeah, I'd just like to encourage our listeners in that, Andrea, that, where do they find their bliss?
Where
do you find that? And to incorporate that in your life.
Yeah.
And that peace inside you. And, you and I, like, you have an amazing marriage. I haven't found that yet. And so I'm by myself, and you have kids in the house all the time, and I don't have kids. So I really like what we represent in a way. Like, I don't want people to look at us and think, oh, everything's hunky-dory. They don't have anything going on in their life. Even as a grandma, I have my own challenges. I have 3 special needs adopted grandchildren. And there's challenges with that are sad, and so much to work through and to experience with them. And yet there's beauty. So there's the both and.
Yeah, and that's the thing, isn't it? It's that, we all have our stuff, don't we? Like what you've shared, and, I've got stuff, I've got teenage kids, and, like, not that,
they're growing up.
We have stuff.
Transition. Yeah.
We have stuff. We have, some people have relationship difficulties. Some people will have difficulties because they want a relationship, it's not there, or we know that there's stuff in life. And yet today's show was really about, okay, but what's the other side of that? Let's put that on the pause mode, because we know it's there, and we know that we have different tools and things to be able to, help people with that, or help ourselves with awesome. But, oh my goodness, what's on the other side of that, and what can we experience? Can you tell that I love, I do. And I absolutely love and adore my husband no end. Like, he is an amazing man, and I feel grateful every day that I wake up beside him, primarily because I never thought I would feel like this again, and I have a lot of love to share, Barb. I have a lot of love in my heart, and I love loving. I mean, this whole not hugging because of COVID, it was a deal breaker for me. It was driving me insane.
Yeah.
And yet, I do love adventure that takes us to places and takes us to different experience. Like your story about the Northern Lights. I'm like, whenever you're ready, universe, you can deliver that little sweetheart to me, because I'm here waiting, Like, I love different cultures. I love learning. I love sinking into the experience of just different things. It's amazing.
I love that you brought up learning. Like, if that's your bliss, if that's where you light up, do it.
Yeah.
Do it. Find these moments, and not just the moments, but the more moments you find, the more you can experience it in your whole life all the time. So.
And that was the thing, like in the learning, like I went to uni after, like I was 28, whatever, with the 2 boys as a single mom. I loved it, but I loved it. Like, if I had gone to uni when I was 18, oh man, I probably would have flunked. But and it's like, never say never.
Right.
Never say never. Like, if you want to go and learn more, go learn more. If you want to know how to tango dance, go tango dance. If you want to, I don't know.
Like, say yes to opportunity.
Oh, just say yes to what you can feel you are being guided to. Like, just never say never. Just never say never. So, yeah. Anyway, so obviously, like we said in the start, this is like a fun, like, how do you experience life? What does it feel like? What's been an amazing experience in your life? And we really would love for people to share in the comments. Like, this is a recording because we are out living our life, like we said, but we would love to hear any of those moments where your heart literally just expanded to the point of, is this really happening right now? Because it's to be celebrated. Love it.
Yeah. So you're going to be doing a talk where you're at, what you're doing in life.
Yeah. I'm in Brisbane for a widow's camp where my presentation is Love After Loss, and you are in Yosemite. Is it Yosemite?
I'm flying to LA and then meeting up with a friend, and we're going to travel through California and go to the Sequoia National Forest, and then Yosemite, and then we're going to go to Lake Tahoe, and then I'm going to fly to Salt Lake City and spend some time with a friend. So
next week, we want to hear all about it, right?
Okay. All right.
I want to see if you meet. Can you just like get Yogi Bear's like signature?
I'll see what I can do, Andrea.
That would be great. That would be
all right. Until then, until we meet again, I'll be looking for you here.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.